very much the second division match of the day. Dewsbury in third position in the table, entertaining league leaders Workington Town. Couldn't be tighter. Town 2 points in front of Dewsbury in the table. Dewsbury with the game in hand. All seem to be going smoothly for Workington. Until a fortnight ago with the defeat at Doncaster. That's not too surprising, but last weekend an unexpected home defeat at the hands of Rochdale Hornets. Dewsbury, of course, a fortnight ago, the defeat at home to London Crusaders. Back on the tracks with the win at Bramley, but everything very much to play for in the remaining matches in the end of the second division season. The main team news for Dewsbury for this afternoon's game is that Les Holiday is out, could well be out of action for the rest of the season. He goes to the specialist for some treatment tomorrow. We'll know more about that later. So, signed from Highfield, the young Australian Trent Jordan. He's on substitute duty this afternoon. Glenn Coghlan comes off the bench and he takes the place of Holiday at loose forward. So Nathan Graham plays at fullback. Rombo, Agar, Johnson and Rogers. Marchant and Conway, the halfbacks. Worthy, Kelly, Cox, Fleary, Bell and Coghlan. Andy Dickinson joins Trent Jordan on the subs bench. Workington team news, there's no Gary Schubert, there's no Brad Heffy, but it's a familiar looking lineup. The Australian Mark Mulligan at fullback. Drummond, Kay, Burns, 24 try Stuart Cocker on the left wing. Wayne Kitchen, Dean Marwood the halfbacks. James Pickering, Phil McKenzie, Colin Armstrong the front three. Martin Oglenby, Paul Penrice and Jed Byrne the back three, and the substitutes Peter Riley and Barry Bugler. Steve Presley, the ex-Batley players, the referee, Mr Davis, Mr Hunter. The touch of Workington playing downhill then. In the first half, blue shirts and Dewsbury. Almost close to conceding that dropout, but that's a good half break by Glenn Bell. It's going to be a hard, bruising forward battle this afternoon as Gary Cox, and it's 10 on 10, the ball's out. Referee Steve Presley ruled it came out illegally. Because Workington had something of the Indian sign over Dewsbury in recent seasons. It was a double last season, and of course Town took the spoils at Derwent Park in the first part of the season. So, really, as a game this afternoon, neither team can afford to lose. There's Kelly with the tap. Paul Worthy, the first drive. Certainly with the likes of Armstrong and Pickering, it's going to be a rare forward battle. Kelly, the blindside switch. Gary Cox. The Coupons giving Dewsbury, giving Workington around about 6 point start, some of them. Others have it at level pegging as Conway brings on Fleary. Because Workington went out of the cup at the hands of Bradford Northern, then those two defeats as Conway brings in Coghlan, and Coghlan back in the fray at loose forward with, as we mentioned, Les Holiday out of action as Conway from Kelly. The inside ball, Tony Marchant. Dewsbury going to be looking to Tony Marchant more and more during this absence of Holiday as Conway again. He's going to chip. But, I think Mark Conway was a little bit in two minds then. Thought about the chip to the corner, then put the kick through. And fullback Mark Mulligan watched the ball aimlessly go dead. As Pickering, the big man, James Pickering, really is a towering figure in the Workington pack. He's missed a few games recently, had to go back home to a memorial service, and he really is the commanding figure in what is a strong Workington six, orchestrated by such as Mackenzie and Jed Byrne, but that was slack play by Workington. Workington half asleep there, and it's Glenn Coghlan. Conway. That's the other Glenn, Glenn Bell. Jed Byrne in at the tackle. Jed Byrne, another man been missing in recent weeks. As Cox gives Dewsbury a good launching position. Tony Marchant. Neil Kelly. Dewsbury looking for that bit of inspiration, looking for the vital early score. The switch then Conway. Just trying to create a bit of something for Darren Rogers, but good defence by Town. There was no overlap created. Last tackle, Mark Conway then. The kick, it's high, it's cross field. Now then, Eddie Rombo takes it on the full. Now then, Eddie Rombo still going. Kick forward, that looks quite reasonable. It's Darren Rogers, the ball comes out to Glenn Coghlan, but that's going to come to nothing. But good bit of improvisation. It was Mark Conway's kick taken on the full by Eddie Rombo, and not a bad little kick through. It's not often we see Eddie kick, but so Workington bring the ball away. Looked for much of the season, Workington, as if they were going to be the second division champions. The last couple of results thrown the issue wide open as the ball comes back for the downfield kick. Nathan Graham. Nathan Graham can't evade the centre. Paul Burns, the ex-Barrowman Penrice in at the tackle as well. Penrice, he normally plays in the centre. When I've seen him playing in the second row, of course, there's no Gary Schubert. In the front row, of course, no Brad Heppy, who had some good games against Dewsbury when he played for Carlisle. Neil Kelly ferreting round the acting half-back position. Dewsbury 0. Workington Town 0 as Conway. The drive then from Fleary, and I think Steve Presley looks as if somebody's going to be pulled out for the high tackle. One or two results on Wednesday night certainly helped both Dewsbury and Workington. Batley beating Huddersfield, and the game at Lawcombe Lane 12-all. Keithley against Doncaster couldn't have been much better. Kelly brings in Paul Worthy, and Dewsbury having the best from of the game so far from a territorial and possession point of view. In the game last season, it was an early score. I think it was Phil McKenzie popped in after Dewsbury put down the Workington bomb as Cox tackled Conway the blind side. Glenn Bell, the strong man, and just looking outside him, just trying to bring Richard Agar in, but the ball goes to ground. Has looked to knock on there at I think that's a full-back to the Australian Mark Mulligan, and one or two calls from the long stand, but the man that counts, Steve Presley, lets the game go. That's another high tackle. It's Colin Armstrong, the Workington captain, and had a spell in the first division when he played for Hull KR, and can't really remember Colin Armstrong playing in a head guard before. It's a growing trend these days in rugby league. Mark Mulligan, who was impressive here last season, the Australian fullback, dropped a goal at the end of last season's game, and first chance then to see Workington as an attacking force. Of course, the opening day of the season, Workington defeated by Huddersfield. Since then, been pretty near unbeatable at home until Rochdale went there last week. That's James Pickering then with the first drive. Here comes Armstrong, ex-Carlisle, Hull KR. 2 tackles gone for Workington, and Phil McKenzie turns the ball back, and scrum half, Dean Barwood, the ex-Barrow man. Town then looking dangerous. The first look at the Dewsbury line as Marwood finds Kitchen, misses out Mulligan. Jed Byrne, back inside we go. Martin Oglenby there takes that tackle, and Dewsbury looking to hold out the big man. Tony Kay did so much damage to Dewsbury when he played for Barrow. Des Drummond attacked in halfback. Will he go solo? Infield it comes. Marwood, the chip through, and that ball just rolls out dead. But the danger men near the line, the men who switch place, switch direction, Phil McKenzie and Jed Byrne, very much the danger men. Darren Rogers comes in from the wing for the first drive. The first Workington attack certainly looked dangerous. Good use of the ball. I'm sure if Dewsbury really can hold them in this first half as Conway. The ball goes out. Fleary from Marchant. Last couple of Dewsbury games seen Richard Agar now playing in the right centre position in place of Marquis Charles. He held that berth against London. Infield it comes to Conway as Steve Presley catches Peter Walsh's men offside. Dewsbury certainly having the best of the penalties. I haven't got a count, but I think to my knowledge it's certainly at least 3-1 in Dewsbury's favour. The aforementioned Richard Agar then finds the touch on the Barrow 20, on the Workington. First drive then. Gary Cox, what has promised all week to be a very even game. The first score is certainly going to count as worthy. Takes it in. That's 2 tackles gone for Dewsbury. Dewsbury 0, Workington Town 0. Conway dummies, runs across field and turns it back. Fleary, but Fleary well tackled by, it was Penrice, the man managed to pull him down from behind as there's something of a scramble at the play of the ball as Coghlan. Now then Nathan Graham comes with him and just looked for a minute as if Glenn Coghlan might create the overlap. Kelly then gives it to Darren Rogers. Darren Rogers did the right thing. He was in little space, and let's give credit to Workington. That was good covering. Des Drummond, it was the standoff half, Wayne Kitchen, that saved the day for Workington. Then it was a good left-footed kick by Darren Rogers. Little ground. Penrice tackled in possession. Town bringing it away. Mackenzie to Armstrong. That's always been Phil Mackenzie's trademark. Run the ball away, then switch it back quickly. The man who instigated so many Widnes tries. He really was the man at the hub of everything good that Widnes did. Mulligan then, downfield a clearance kick. One bounce, and that's a feature of Mount Pleasant these days. The drying out pitch, the ball so often just bounces, stands up at 90 degrees as Rombo really has been in good form lately, in good try-scoring form. Another touchdown last week at Bramley. First call this afternoon then, Errol Johnson. 2 tackles gone and the crowd beginning to get behind Dewsbury. Kelly, Conway, out we go, Marchant and Bell and Agar, and a good ball. Eddie Rombo out on the right flank. I think Eddie probably caught a little bit by surprise. I don't think the earlier run had taken a little bit of steam out of him as Conway finds Cox, and James Pickering on top in the tackle there, just making sure that the ball can't be smuggled as Conway again then puts the long one out. Errol Johnson, Nathan Graham gives Rogers a chance, and Darren Rogers comes in field, but Steve Presley, you couldn't say he wasn't well positioned right on the spot there, and he's penalised Dewsbury for, call it what you want, obstruction or crossing. But certainly a lively start to the game. We just had the one early raid by Workington, which ended up with the ball being kicked dead. Dewsbury certainly having slightly the better of things as Tony Kay comes in from his right centre position to take that first drive as Mackenzie misses out Pickering. Mark Mulligan, 2 tackles gone. Mackenzie, that's Marwood, the prolific point scorer. Oglenby, working to then enter the Dewsbury half. Mackenzie and Byrne, the orchestrators. Pickering, the big man, the strong man, and certainly if James Pickering gets into space, he can bolster a bit. As here comes Armstrong. Armstrong look towards Drummond, and nothing on, so Colin Armstrong takes the tackle. Mackenzie, in we go, Dean Marwood. Number 1 is Mark Mulligan, and Mark Mulligan, he just weighing up his options there, Mulligan. I think he thought of the long pass, he thought of the kick, but in the end, thrown to the ground as Coghlan picks up the battle, and certainly the makings of a good game. Not too many scrums, and the ball being turned over, each side eager to take up possession. Nathan Graham. Here comes Darren Fleary, and certainly been a clean start, a good, clean, flowing game as Conway moves the ball on Marchant. Out we come, Glenn Bell, out to Darren Rogers. Now then, Darren Rogers, but Des Drummond gets the ball Desdrummond gets the tackling. Rogers infield to Johnson. Johnson, Tony Marchant, and Darren Rogers doing well in that move, keeping the ball alive in the tackle as Kelly. Out we go again. Gary Cox straight and hard, and Penrice gets the tackling, but the ball comes out again as Coghlan. James Pickering's in with the tackle. Wayne Kitchen with the assist. Dewsbury then pressing. The elusive first score as Conway. That's the chip, and that's Stuart Cocker, the ex-Huddersfield and Oldham man. A superb take by Cocker, because the Dewsbury men, Rombo, Agar, were actually outside him. Had Cocker missed that ball, there could have been problems for Workington, but Stuart Cocker took that ball superbly well as Armstrong held up in that tackle. The switch again, Price for a forward pass, but of course these days referees 10 yards back, not really in a position to give them. As Neil Kelly gets the tackle in, assisted by Darren Fleary. That's the kick. Plenty of time for Nathan Graham, the kick. Tony Kay in at the tackling. Penrice has certainly been well to the fore in the early stages with his defensive work as Adel Johnston thrown to the ground. That was James Pickering on that occasion. Conway from Kelly, Cox straight and hard, and Jedburn showing his experience there, just making sure that the ball couldn't be slipped out. Paul Worthy, as the game settles into something of a midfield pattern, as Conway feints inside, outside to March. Nathan Graham just trying to create something, but well taken by Tony Kay. Des Drummond in attendance as Conway. Kick and chase. As that was well taken. That was good full back play by Mark Mulligan. Nice little kick into space by Mark Conway, but well read by Mark Mulligan. Stuart Cocker in from his wing. 24 tries this season. Mackenzie finds Marwood. Marwood, the halfbacks, Marwood and Kitchen moving the ball on well. James Pickering. Good drive by Pickering. Marwood. We move it on. Jedburn, Tony Kay slips the ball in field. Back to Kitchen. Kitchen to Marwood. Marwood to Mulligan. Mulligan, the support from Marwood. Marwood goes through, puts the ball out. Stuart Cocker goes over for the first try. Superb football by Town and finished by the Yorkshireman. Ex-Huddersfield and Oldham. Stuart Cocker goes over. The men involved were Mulligan and Marwood. Marwood again. The final pass to Stuart Cocker, and Stuart Cocker unopposed really. 25 tries this season for the man who started off playing rugby union for Morley, played amateur rugby league for BRK as well, and really that was a poacher's try there. Mulligan, who always impresses me when I've seen him, he was involved with Marwood, and Stuart Cocker skipped over for the try that certainly given the psychological advantage to Workington. So every point could well be vital. It's Dean Marwood, who without looking kicked, I think something like about 149 goals or something last season. He really had a prolific time of things. Former Barrow player, moved up the Cumbrian coast to Workington, and certainly the Boost Town wanted just what Dewsbury didn't want. Marwood strokes over the goal, so the early spoils go to the Cumbrians. Dewsbury 0, Workington 6, but certainly good approach work, good combination work, and looked at one time as if Marwood was in fact going to score. He skipped out of Nathan Graham's tackle, Dean Marwood, just as if it looked he would score. He made doubly sure, floated the ball onto Stuart Cocker for the try. So, test very much of Dewsbury's character. Conway then restarts. So Jedburn started off at Salford as a centre, then played so long at Wigan as a key utility man, and Just interesting to see Workington be looking to control the ball. A try, of course, always lifts the side. This is again, that's a strong break. Second row man, Ogilvy, tries to get on the outside of Nathan Graham and in fact succeeds, and it was Darren Rogers, the man who got back, made the desperate tackle. McKenzie puts the ball infield. Tony Kay. Wayne Kitchen comes back into the right wing position, but that could have been curtains for Dewsbury. Infield we go. Marwood, Jed Byrne puts the long ball out. Armstrong finds himself in the left centre position, and certainly Dewsbury under pressure. Workington from one side of the field to the other. As I think it was Stuart Cocker, the try scorer, put the kick through, but certainly Town, really for the first, after the try, the first time in the game they've really split Dewsbury around the middle. It was Darren Rogers. His pace very much saved the day for Dewsbury, getting back to nail the break in Dewsbury. Just looking for a period now of consolidation. Dewsbury 0, Workington Town 6. Try Cocker, conversion, Marwood. Certainly Gary Cox. I think probably Pickering and Armstrong, two of the strongest props in the division. The blindside switch then brings in Paul Worthy. Good driving run by the Dewsbury number 8. Glenn Bell then, one-handed split, puts it back. Conway, there's a bit of space out left as Darren Fleary steps back inside, but of course in doing that steps back into the Workington cover. Out we come again, Conway. Now the long ball, Errol Johnson. Errol Johnson, the ball goes to the ground, and the knock-on given. Workington sliding across, and just Dewsbury trying to exploit this. Mark Conway trying to find such as Johnson and Rogers with the long pass. Back we go then, Marwood. Just, eventually gets that ball from the scrum. Not the ideal heel as Byrne. In we go, off we go again. Kitchen, Tony Kay. The long stride in centre. Started at Barrow, went to St Helens, back to Barrow, then back to Workington, or up to Workington as Mulligan loves to get forward, the Australian from the Lakes United club, the same club where the coach Peter Walsh came from. Here comes Mulligan again and gets the ball. The support's from Marwood. Jed Byrne. Oh, brilliant football from Byrne. Can he find his support? Marwood. The centre's Paul Burns, and Paul Burns goes over for the second try. Again, superb football by Town. Excellent approach work. The man who made that was Jed Byrne, who went 360 degrees. The Dewsbury defence bought everything. The support was there. The final man was another ex-Barrow man, Paul Burns. Took the ball to touchdown. It's last season all over again from a Dewsbury point of view. Dewsbury 0, Workington Town 10, and whatever you say, both tries have been the result of very, very good football. I think early in the season, Jed Byrne was playing stand-off. Kitchen, I think, playing in the loose forward role. Those two, a role reversal, but I suppose wherever you play in the middle of the field, the one thing that Jed Byrne has got, so much experience. He's been halfway around the rugby league, Salford, Wigan, Wakefield, Trinity, Oldham, now settled in West Cumbria. Dean Marwood then, 1 out of 1 so far. The 1. So Dean Marwood looking to put the advantage to 12. That's good goals by Workington, who certainly, I would think, 500 or 600 supporters here this afternoon. It was said before that 9 coaches that set off. Of course, many people made the long trip down the M6 in cars, and after the early stages when Dewsbury, certainly from a possession and territorial point of view, the best of things, without putting any points on the board, it was Workington who stung Dewsbury. I think that's the best description, with the 2 tries, 4 and 5 for Workington. Stuart Cocker and Paul Burns, both goal by Dean Marwood. Workington looking to get more points on the board before half-time. Dewsbury looking to hold things, or to attempt to put a few points back. Here comes Pickering. Of course, tries lift aside, tries give them confidence. Mackenzie, Marwood, Jed Byrne, the creator, Armstrong. Oglenby there, here the man that made the big break, got on the outside of Nathan Graham. Eventually Darren Rogers took him, but that was the break. That set up the position for the Paul Burns try, as here we come again. Marwood, that high ball as Tony Kay comes in, and Nathan Graham takes the ball, also takes Des Drummond as well. Errol Johnson, good clearing run, but the Workington cover basically forcing Errol Johnson crossfield. It's like Glenn Coghlan. It's going to be interesting to see when Dewsbury introduce the Australian newcomer, Trent Jordan. Could well be on. In fact, Trent Jordan now out of the dugout, wearing 15. So, Norman Smith going to be looking for an immediate impact, as Tony March had just almost made the half break then, just had his ankles tapped. I think it was Penrice, the man who we've called doing so much tackling. Paul Worthy just found himself in the left centre position, but straight into the welcoming hands of Tony Kay. Conway from Kelly has the kick. The man who set up the first try then, Mark Mulligan. Mark Mulligan, look at that break. Over the halfway line, 1 against 1. Mark Mulligan versus Nathan Graham. Throws the ball, and Dewsbury take it up as Richard Agar a little bit unlucky there. I think he's actually been penalised for offside. And I think is it Mark Mulligan down, injured? Superb break by the full-back. I think what happened was Mark Mulligan tried to find his support. As he passed, the pass hit a Dewsbury man, bounced forward, and Richard Agar, a little bit unlucky, just picked it up in what was an offside position. But once again, another clean break, and Paul Worthy, the man coming off. Trent Jordan comes on, the 23-year-old Australian. Been playing for Highfield. The coach from, the quote from the Highfield coach, Mike Pearce, was he's too good for us, and certainly Dewsbury needing something. That was another very much a clear-cut break where Mark Mulligan really must be the best fullback in the second division. Got the sidestep, and had he found his support, it could have been another try. It wasn't, but Dean Marwood, 2 out of 2. Both relatively straightforward attempts after the try. This a little bit more difficult, but slightly angled to the left. The ex-Barrow halfback strikes the ball, strikes it over the post, and this is certainly giving Workington a cushion for the second half, when Dewsbury will come downhill. As so it looks like we're going to have a substitution. Paul Penrice, who really has done a lot of tackling in this first 25 minutes, he comes off. As the substitute comes on, then Penrice off. It's Barry Buglas. Barry Buglas and Peter Riley, the Workington substitutes. This is Barry Buglas, conspicuous by his shock of red hair, and said in the early stages of the game it was Dewsbury who'd very much had all the ball, but once since that Stuart Clocker try and Marwood conversion, it's been all Workington possession, and of course they've added that further 8 points. Mackenzie, Armstrong. Right, the kick. Phil Mackenzie, the Australian, who entertained hopes at one time, actually playing for Great Britain, as Nathan Graham brings in Darren Rogers, and Dewsbury find themselves in possession, but back in their own territory. Errol Johnson comes off, take a bit of pressure off the forwards in from his left centre berth. Eddie Rombo. Conway, the long ball out as Coghlan. Infield we come then. Mark Conway, the left foot to put the ball, but one of the danger men is Mulligan, who, well, on evidence of what we've seen from a Dewsbury point of view, got to be tackled before he gets into his stride. Stuart Cocker, who ran a pub at one time in Morley. I think his father still runs one. I don't know if Stuart... I don't think he's his own hostelry these days. James Pickering, who sadly missed during his... missed about 2 or 3 games. And Mackenzie loves the blind side. Back to Pickering. Armstrong, another man that runs the pub. Nobody there acting half back. Tony Kay gets in smartish, and not the best pass in the world to Marwood. Marwood gets the ball away, and Pickering, a big cheer as the big prop. Jed Byrne then, as Pickering's turns out all right, as Paul Burns looks like he's going to be deposited into touch. The ball comes out, and I'm sure the ref will give the turnover. It was when Pickering put up the kick, it really didn't go anywhere, but the game stopped, and Pickering able to regather and set Workington off in motion again with Jed Byrne very much at the hub of things. That looks like the first call for Trent Jordan. Coghlan and Buglas, the substitute, in quickly. Conway turns it back to Cox, and looked like a bone-shuddering challenge from Pickering as Conway. Marchant now. Tony Marchant, has he got support? And the support was to the left, and the angle of Tony Marchant's run, nothing Tony Marchant could do. His run was taking him the other way as Glenn Bell. What Dewsbury need is a score before half-time, preferably 6 points, as Fleary bounces the ball, but gets it out. Darren Rogers just kicks the ball into touch, and yes, good break by Tony Marchant. Just a pity that there was no one to get on the end of it. That's Marwood then, and 2 Dewsbury forwards meeting, Trent Jordan and Gary Cox, and so as the kick from Mulligan sets Workington up again. Mackenzie, in we come. Marwood finds Tony Kay, ex-Barrowman to ex-Barrowman. Mackenzie. Armstrong, who in his Carlisle days was something of a goal kicker. Mackenzie, Marwood, the runner, how move. The man that's doing the damage is Jed Byrne. He's certainly one of the key players this afternoon. Out we come again. Pickering, the big man turns, and the pass goes to ground. Trent Jordan comes in for it, but it was the other substitute got there first, Barry Buglas. Mackenzie, chip and chase. Rogers gathers the ball. Nothing he could do, Mackenzie. Up with the tackle. Errol Johnson. Crossfield. Dewsbury 0. Workington Town 14. 2 tries. 3 goals to Dean Marwood. Nathan Graham. Trent Jordan then. As the scrum flies off. Cox. Tony Kane misses the tackle. Cox. Good strong run. Conway puts that along, but Mulligan straight down the middle again, and good tackle by Glenn Bell. It was a vital tackle by Glenn Bell, because if he'd missed it, there was oceans of space as Stuart Cocker, a man scored tries wherever he's played. Armstrong, as that's going to be a penalty, as it's Glenn Bell, the man that's going to be called for a high tackle, and the way things are going, I would think that Marwood will have a go for another 2. Certainly nothing to lose from a Workington point of view, just the more points they can get on the board, the better, although things do turn around with the Mount Pleasant Slope, Batley and Huddersfield on Wednesday night. It was 22 points to 4 in Batley's favour at half-time. Huddersfield pulled it back to 22-16 before a further score to Batley put the game safe. Marwood kicks, and certainly plenty of distance to it, but just a little bit lacking in direction. But Dewsbury have to drop out, so Town get the ball back. Kelly then with the dropout. Not too much distance, and a difficult ball to pick up, but it was certainly well covered. It was Kitchen that took the difficult bouncing ball, as Tony Kay hasn't really had an actual running opportunity. Tony Kay, most of his runs have been similar runs that a forward would have, as Jed Byrne. Don't take any dummies from Jed Byrne. The last one led to 6 points. Mackenzie. Marwood back inside. Armstrong just booked for a minute as if we were on for another bus then. Kitchen and Byrne. Des Drummond. We haven't seen too much of Des in possession, as Drummond now sort of mid-30s, very much in the veteran stage, but still extremely powerful. The kick from Mulligan, a high one. Nathan Graham waits, and Nathan Graham takes it well. It was a well-judged kick from Mulligan. The pressure still on. Errol Johnson, who has done so much work for Dewsbury in just driving the ball away. Conway again tried to take the ball to the blind side, but the ball goes to ground. About 3 minutes to go then to half-time, and the one thing that Dewsbury can't afford is another score. Marwood, Kitchen, Tony Kay with a bit of space as Errol Johnson comes across, tries to get the ball in field to Drummond, but Town losing ground as Kitchen cleans things up, but he's well taken by Darren Rogers as Drummond inside Marwood finds Buglas, who isn't certainly particularly big to play in the forwards. The space now, Mulligan versus Nathan Graham. Mulligan goes out, Mulligan goes over for the try that Dewsbury couldn't afford. for the score that's absolutely vital for Workington. The man who's been dangerous from the first stages of the game goes over, extends Workington's lead 18 points to nil. 3 tries, and it must be about the third or fourth occasion that Mark Mulligan's gone through. This time he pinned his ears back, took on Nathan Graham, looked to go inside, eventually went on the outside and had enough pace to get around the Dewsbury full-back for what is certainly an absolutely vital score as we approach half-time. It's Workington Town 0, Workington Town 18, Dewsbury 0, and what do you think? We said some Coopers actually gave Workington a 6-point start. Well, those people back Workington sitting pretty at this stage then. Dean Marwood, 3 out of 4 at present. That looks reasonable. That's straight over, so superb kicking display from Marwood. 3 tries, 4 goals, Dewsbury 0, Workington Town 20. The Town team, I think it was 35 points conceded at home to Rochdale last week. Well, the bad news is Dewsbury have to go to Rochdale next Sunday, although you can't work games out like that. There's a lot of funny things happening in the second division, and well, few would have predicted this, that one side would go into half-time with a 20-point cushion. Colin Armstrong. I know that for some games this season, Town have actually stayed over at Huddersfield on the Saturday night. I don't know if that was the case before this game, as Tony Kay, he's just started to come more and more into the game. There's Mackenzie, probing as ever. There goes the half-time hooter then. It's Dewsbury 0, Workington 20. Try Stuart Cocker, Paul Burns, Mark Mulligan. 4 goals to Dean Marwood, and a lot of work ahead for Dewsbury in the second half. Then Workington 20, and if Dewsbury had to pull anything out of this game, then the one thing that Dewsbury want is an early score. They've got to get some points on the board and get them quickly. Be interesting to see what the respective coaches have said at half-time as James Pickering brings Workington forward. Do Workington carry on in the same vein and try and add to this lead, or do they sit back, as it were? I think probably the more positive thing is to go forward, and if you're capable of scoring the points, get your points on the board. If you sit back on leads, you're probably inviting trouble. I'm sure Norman Smith emphasised that Dewsbury must get this early score as something we don't see too much of. The actual place kick into touch, that came from Marwood as Workington, who control the ball for so much of the first half. After the first 10 minutes, quarter of an hour or so, Aglambi, the man, such a good game in the first half. That devastating burst when he came down the right centre channel. The standoff, Kitchen, who his father, Phil Kitchen, Whitehaven standoff, played for Great Britain in the 60s as Marwood. And Mulligan, out we go on the far side, and inside Des Drummond, the hero. So many games with Lee, Warrington, Great Britain, as Dean Marwood there just plays the percentage game, just grubber kicks the ball into touch and keeps Dewsbury up there, and also just wastes a bit of time. Mark Conway brings in Darren Rogers. Dewsbury with one substitute on. Trent Jordan came on for Paul Worthy. Still no sign as yet of Andy Dickinson. Workington, Barry Barry Buglas on in the first half for Paul Penrice. Dave Workington still Peter Riley to use, as that time it was Trent Jordan who lost that ball as he ran into James Pickering. I think a few people would lose the ball if they ran into James Pickering, a commanding figure in the middle of the field. As the switch to Kitchen from Marwood, as Paul Burns, the man who scored the second try. That was the one set up by Jed Byrne. Mackenzie loves the blind side, where Stuart Cocker is saying he made the gap on the left, but Stuart Cocker absent without leave. Mackenzie infield again. Marwood, the run-around move, the scrum half back in possession. Glanby again making the break, and Dewsbury cover desperately getting back. Marwood again. Armstrong just looked as if he was going to bring Mackenzie onto that ball, but went himself, tried to sell the dummy to the Dewsbury defence. Again, good attacking position, Mackenzie. Then in field, and that's the substitute, Buglas. He gets the ball out. Jed Byrne. The little swivel again, Mackenzie. Here, there and everywhere. Where's the ball? In fact, Dewsbury gratefully gathering possession on their own line. Andy Dickinson, he's out of the dugout, so a fresh pair of legs. Inspiration, badly needed. Gary Cox, but Dewsbury stuck in their own quarter. Kelly, Fleary. Dewsbury just finding it difficult to breach the strong defence. The kick then, left foot Mark Conway. Plenty of distance on that one. He's turned Mark Mulligan. In fact, that ball might have enough pace on it to go dead. It will do it. Got onto one of the grassy bits, and Glenn Coghlan, the man that's going to come off. So Andy Dickinson on. It was difficult to say at this stage of things what sort of difference Les Holiday would have made had he played in today's game, but of course the bottom line is he isn't playing. So Coghlan off, Dickinson on. James Pickering loves to run with the ball, and looks like Mackenzie. Once again, 3 tackles, good controlled football. Glanby. So in 4 tackles, Workington have come from the 20-metre line to inside the Dewsbury half as Armstrong. Buglas wrapped up by the Dewsbury second row men, Fleary and Bell. Looks like Trent Jordan getting a bit of attention as the ricochet. Phil Mackenzie, bit unlucky there as knocking the ball on, as knock on Dewsbury's ball as the ricochet. I think I probably put the tackle count back to 1 had Mackenzie not knocked on. As it was at half time then, Dewsbury 0, Workington Town 20. As Eddie Rombo just caught by behind from his jersey, and Eddie certainly looked dangerous in the opening minutes. Hasn't seen much ball at all since then. As Dickinson, who battles and battles, battles with Tony Kay, as Conway puts the ball back in field, as Glenn Bell hooks the ball back. Richard Agard just can't control that ball, but the good news is it came back, and Dewsbury going to get a penalty for that ball being ripped out. It was Paul Burns and Stuart Cocker, the Workington men in attendance. Neil Kelly. Dewsbury desperately needing the try as Cox had about 7 minutes in the second half, as Dewsbury been given another penalty. Neil Kelly then not bothering about the touch. away we go through Conway to Marchant. Conway again. Dickinson now. She's going to go straight and struggling there, just attempting to get the ball free then. Dewsbury then, first attacking position for a long time. Mark Conway going to get the ball, finds the support, Neil Kelly there, but the town defence getting back, but certainly a good, incisive break by Mark Conway. Conway again, brings it out, Trent Jordan, puts the ball out, Richard Agar, Eddie Rombo gets it inside, Darren Flaring, Dewsbury just can't get over the line. Better play by Dewsbury, throwing the ball about a bit, but just can't get the score. Infield we come, Kelly, the long ball, Gary Cox straight and hard, can he slip the ball? He can't, it's the last tackle, but that's certainly, it's a better 6 by Dewsbury. Good approach work and looked for a bit as if Eddie Rombo might have scored, looked as if Darren Flaherty, but good play by Dewsbury, but credit the Workington defence. Richard Heegard in with the tackle and Dewsbury been penalised. Glenn Bell. Steve Presley said he came in with the swinging right arm, so it's a little bit of relief for Workington, although I'm sure the 20 points that they've got on the board is an even bigger relief. Off we go again. Tony Kay scored a try a couple of years ago for Barrow. I think he ran about 80 yards up that right-hand touchline. That looks like the substitute, Bugless, and another penalty. And Steve Presley certainly kept well on top of things. The ref who played, well, I think must have played the best part of 10 years for Batley. Certainly plenty of penalties. Dewsbury had the early ones. In fact, it's a blood bin. So one substitute comes off. That's Barry Bugless. So it looks like the first look for Peter Riley. In fact, no, it's not Peter Riley. It's the man who was originally substituted in the first half, Paul Penrice. He comes back for Bugless. As forward we go. It looks like that man Mulligan's come forward to take the tap and makes valuable yards. Here comes Pickering. Still going. 2 tackles gone. Plenty of struggling going on. There's the other prop, Armstrong. Still scoreless in this second half. Marwood, Gerard Byrne puts the ball in and Wayne Kitchen dumped the ground as Paul Burns goes onto that ball. Last tackle now, drop goal up and under. Let's see what Marwood, nice grubber kick, but bounced quite well straight into the welcoming arms. Errol Johnson. It's a scrappy play, the ball. And, it's 2 tackles gone. Trent Jordan then, 3 tackles gone. Of course, difficult for a newcomer coming into a new team in what is very much a vital game, as Darren Rogers really forced to tidy up as the ball bounced its way towards him. Darren Rogers had a long spell on the wing. It'd be interesting to see if in the remaining time to the end of the season that he actually gets switched back to his centre position where he made such a good impression last season. Of course, he did play on the wing at some stage, but the kick then misses, which is an unforced error, and here comes one of the contenders for the man of the match, Mark Mulligan. And, I think probably at this stage he would be my man of the match, as Tony Kay. Workington haven't made many errors, but they've given Dewsbury a sniff of the halfway line as Richard Agar goes in. Gary Cox for the hard yards. Good drive then by Cox. Trent Jordan had a good game for Highfield against Dewsbury and had his progress monitored ever since. Out it comes then Conway, Marchant, back we come, Glenn Bell. Kelly and Conway. Puts the long one out and Darren Rogers came off Workington and again that's well picked up and Des Drummond just for the first touch this half and didn't see too much of the game Des in the first half. Scored so many spectacular tries really, many length of the field efforts. That's better defence by Dewsbury. Oglenby played all over, former Barler international, played in the backs, played in the forwards, he's hooked and had an outstanding game. In the second row, Armstrong. Sure, Peter Walsh, the Workington coach, just quite happy with the containing game as Darren Fleary. Fleary was unlucky then. That ball was really, after the ricochet, it was spinning like a top and Fleary, unfortunately, just turning the ball over and it was an awful, awkward ball for Darren Fleary. I don't think really you could attach any blame to him for that. Pickering brings out the sidestep. Still struggling forward, still going, in he comes Pickering and Fleary, still going into the Dewsbury quarter and brings out the cheers as Peter Riley. He's ready to enter the fray and knock on given. So number 10, the man coming off then, looks to be Colin Armstrong. Colin Armstrong coming off a little bit feelingly. So then, Colin Armstrong takes off his head guard, salutes the town supporters as Dewsbury come forward with the ball. Andy Dickinson, but just at present there seems no way through for Dewsbury, no way through with the ball. Just that spell where Rombo was held close and Fleary and Darren Rogers, that's 3 times in about 5 minutes that he's had to control a bouncing ball. Gary Cox, I think he's kept going well and again just trying to get the ball out. Certainly Gary Cox been one of the better Dewsbury players this afternoon. Glenn Bell gets the ball away as Kelly and turns it back. Trent Jordan did the right thing there. Held on to the ball. Kelly, Conway. Oh. Darren Rogers this time just hacks it downfield and Mark Mulligan watches the ball. Gather pace and go harmlessly dead. News then that Whitehaven beaten Keighley, so substitute then Peter Riley, who normally plays in the front row when he's in the actual starting lineup. It's 17 minutes gone in this half. Oglenby, just like so many forwards, we often say when they move into the second row, they've just got that extra yard of pace having played in the backs, and it makes a lot of difference. The early score for Dewsbury in this half just hasn't materialised, and most of the game played between the 20 metres as Tony Kay, who he hasn't had a chance really to get into his stride. Darren Fleary. Errol Johnson. Trent Jordan at again, the cover's there. Burns in with the tackle. Byrne was there. Peter Riley, Marchant, Conway, Gary Cox. Tony Marchant then. Good play by Marchant, and then Stuart Cocker comes across, and Stuart Cocker loses the ball. Richard Agar, and that's symptomatic of Dewsbury this afternoon. I think they're destined not to score. In fact, I think probably it should have been a penalty actually to Workington, because Tony Marchant pushed Stuart Cocker when Cocker hadn't the ball, but Steve Presley wasn't going to give it. The ball came out, the ball was given to Richard Agar. It looked as if a try was on for all the work for Dewsbury, but it didn't materialise, so it's still Dewsbury 0, Workington Town 20, and certainly Dewsbury's best chance of a try. Certainly have just boosted Dewsbury, still 23, 24 minutes or so to go, but it wasn't to make Richard Agar just unable to get in at the corner. Workington keeping the ball going well. Now the kick comes in. Kitchen now then. Darren Rogers, bit of time and space. In fact, Nathan Graham and Darren Rogers. Nathan Graham read the situation well. Made sure he didn't go into touch. Andy Dickinson then, straight into the experienced arms of Jed Byrne. Cox. Again, a gland below. Paul Burns does the smothering job. Conway. Darren Fleary, and Darren Fleary, just so often we keep saying, just threatening to make the break without it ever just quite materialising. Kelly, and turns it back, Marchant. Now then Fleary again, Nathan Graham, good ball. Rogers, can he get in at the corner? Darren Rogers can, so the Dewsbury try eventually comes. It was a good ball from Nathan Graham, a good first-time ball. Space created, and Darren Rogers. After virtually, 60 minutes of the game, overlap situation created. Darren Rogers, a good ball, it was a good ball. Nathan Graham summed up the situation quickly, moved the ball out in one. Darren Rogers able to get in at the corner, so a little bit of respectability to the scoreline for Dewsbury, but a long way to go. A bit of pressure, and Darren Rogers, who had to contend with some difficult ball out on the left flank. That was probably the best pass he's had all afternoon, a straight pass, and giving him what all wingers want, an actual running opportunity. Mark Conway, then it's difficult. In fact, it's over, so that's a good try and an excellent goal by Mark Conway. So we've got the deficit back to 14 points. Dewsbury 6, Workington Town 20, and shall we say just less than 20 minutes to go. Just a pity from Dewsbury that they hadn't got the score about a quarter of an hour or so ago. Would have given them a bit more time to play with. Errol Johnson coming crossfield, just looking for a bit of space, but the Workington defence just caught on the one occasion so far. Gary Cox, 2 tackles gone, and penalty to Dewsbury, interference at the play of the ball. Wayne Kitchen, the guilty party. Crowd trying to rouse Dewsbury. Glenn Bell for one then. Kelly and Conway. Mark Conway now turns it inside. Nathan Graham, then Nathan Graham going to get over. Nathan Graham goes Mark Conway then. Mark Conway ran this way, turned it inside and outside, and it was Nathan Graham who really came onto that ball. Running at speed, hit the ball, hit the gap, and well, Dewsbury from just when Richard Agar didn't score, it looked as if Dewsbury were destined not to score a try. Then suddenly we've had 2 tries virtually back to back, and suddenly it's a case of game on. Still a long way to go, but those 10 points, just the sort to lift the team and also lift the crowd. And Mark Conway just got the Workington defence guessing, and Nathan Graham really plenty of pace. Conway kicks. That one unfortunately is missed, but nevertheless, so it looks like Barry Bugler, who he's missed all the action. He's been off for 10 minutes. He's missed 10 points. Paul Penrice comes off as Mulligan kicks off, and that much used cliche, game off 2 halves, and looking at the clock, about 18 minutes left. Nathan Graham is thrown again, and just eventually lost his footing, but just as Mulligan, what a great game the Workington fullbacks had. Nathan Graham really coming into things. Mark Conway is our Workington tiring. Tony Marchant. Out we come, Trent Jordan. Richard Agar comes in, he's going to put in the kick, and that was going to swing all over the place. It looks to be going back, it's now come forward, and it's I think you'd call that an unpredictable bounce at the death, but nevertheless it's put Workington back very much in their own quarter, and it's put Town on the back foot. Just a pity Nathan Graham lost his footing in that last sort. It might have put him in a 1-to-1 with Mulligan, although there was plenty of defence getting back. It was just the stumble that cost him the vital yards. Town ball, and from their footing, Workington, they're going to look to just use the forwards, just tighten it up a little bit. Stuart Cocker then. Quiet afternoon for the wingman. Score of the first try. Fresh from the blood bin then, Barry Bugler. Looking for some work out of him. James Pickering, and another big drive from Pickering. He's had a good game, and Town showing the composure. It's important they do as Mulligan gets the ball downfield. One bounce, and Darren Rogers, and Darren Rogers puts the kick in, and that's good play by Darren Rogers, and he's managed to stay in field. In fact, it's going to be a penalty. I think the touch should just come in, but that was play by Rogers. It was also confidence, because you don't get many players, many wingers, or any players who are prepared to kick on the first tackle. But I think Darren Rogers probably feels he's got the legs on Des Drummond, and the kick was superb. He managed to regather and stay in the field of play when Mark Mulligan came over and made the vital tackle. So wins then for Batley and Doncaster. Batley creeping up the table. Doncaster a win at Carlisle, and a trip here on Wednesday night. 14 minutes left as Dewsbury go into the Workington 20 through Gary Cox. 5 tackles to go. Dewsbury 10, Workington 20 as Glenn Bell. That's a strong plunge from Glenn Bell. 2 tackles gone. Kelly. The little switch move back to Kelly as Cleary looked to be scoring, but somehow managed to be twisted and turned away from the try line. Conway puts the ball on. The substitute, Trent Jordan. Mark Conway, just difficult ball for Mark Conway, and wasn't a good pass, and Workington regathering the ball, and sensible refereeing there by Steve Presley, just allowing the injured man to receive treatment, allowing Stuart Cocker to play the ball. Oglenby. Mackenzie holding the ball and then so often just looking to ease the man into space, and James Pickering, he's had a good game. Now 2 men going to come back on for Town. Colin Armstrong and Paul Penrice as the battleship, Des Drummond, as the kick goes out on the full. One more score for Dewsbury really would set this game up for what, a last 5 minutes or so. But they need that other score, and they need to be at the other end of the field as Dickinson. To the blind side. Johnson. Neil Kelly then. Oh, good play by Kelly. Can we get the ball to Rogers, and just the ball. Good credit there, Neil Kelly, the dummy, exploiting the blind side, finding Andy Dickinson, and it was just a case, if the pass was good enough to get Darren Rogers over at the corner for his second try. It wasn't. It came to naught, and the penalty to Workington. Again, it's Dean Marwood with the place kick. So, neither side this afternoon having scored a single point up the slope. Workington 20 without reply in the first half. Dewsbury 10 points in the second half. Dewsbury 10. Workington down 20. 10, 11 minutes to go. Tony Kay. Sure, all Workington, all they need to do is retain possession, play the 5 tackles and put the kick in. It's like Peter Riley. He should be relatively fresh as the kick came in, and Paul Burns just can't get Eddie Rombo, and Eddie Rombo. A bit surprised then that Dean Marwood kicked so early on in the set of 6. I thought he would have been happy to play out a few more tackles through the forwards. Edel Johnson, Conway, Trent Jordan, Colin Armstrong waits to come back. Conway, Marchant, Cleary, Conway well tackled from behind, but good play by Cleary, and looked like Mark Conway might have been held back then as Trent Jordan got Glenn Bell with him. Glenn Bell, Richard Agar, and again good wing play by Stuart Cocker. Just came in there and managed to stop the overlap out to Eddie Rombo. Infield we go. Conway from Kelly. Marchant, little kick through, but obstruction now. Did Dewsbury take the 2, or did they go for the 6? Armstrong's going to come on for Pickering. We're going to go for the 6. Glenn Bell, right on the line. I think probably the right idea then, and referee gives a knock on, and we often say on commentary you can be too near the line, that there's so many players. It's such an absolute scramble that Dewsbury knocking on what was only the second tackle. So the forward's been rejigged, and Armstrong, who's had a rest for 10 minutes or so, comes back for Pickering. Back, Workington. Cocker, still going. Tony Kay. Big applause for James Pickering. Certainly been as good a forward on the field as anybody this afternoon. Phil McKenzie. And the slip, Tony Kay. Now then, Des Drummond. Down the middle of the field, Des Drummond still going, and bit of experience by Kay and Drummond. Mulligan, good kick from the fullback, managing to bounce it in, and of course it's all wasting valuable seconds and getting Dewsbury in the wrong quarter of the field. Who certainly made a number of breaks and half breaks, hasn't just always had the bit of luck needed at the vital time, as Kelly, Andy Dickinson roaming about in that left centre position. Dewsbury really needing to get in the Workington half, and in fact Dickinson's been penalised there for struggling and I'm sure Mark Mulligan's just going to deposit the ball. Just pops the ball out. So one tackle gone. You see the Workington tactics here as Armstrong, refreshed from his spell when he was off the field. Peter Walsh certainly plenty of use of the substitutes this afternoon. He switched and rested his forwards as Jed Byrne. Certainly this would settle the game, another score to Workington. The dummy then, Mackenzie. Mulligan, out we come Bugler. Stuart Cocker. Come in from his left wing position. Played a fair bit at Huddersfield in the centre position. The drop goal attempt is good. The drop goal, I think it was Mulligan. And if that's right, it was Mulligan, and Mark Mulligan actually dropped a goal in the corresponding game last season, and just extends it. So the only point that Workington have actually scored in the second half, Dewsbury 10, Workington 21. We're just talking at half-time, and perhaps people in Workington will know more than me. I had just a feeling it might actually be Mark Mulligan's birthday today. That's something that we might check up on later. Mark Mulligan gets the Man of the Match award. No grumbles at all with that. Superb first half. Just reminded everybody then with the drop goal, and Dewsbury then. The bare fact is 2 converted tries would still win the game for Dewsbury. The bad news is there's only about 4 minutes left. Tony Kay. Here he comes again, Tony Kay. Just such a big man and so difficult to tackle once he gets into his stride, and another man in his stride is Colin Armstrong, of course known as Buck. Des Drummond. So much experience in the Workington team. A lot of these players, of course, played higher level of rugby. Drummond, Kay, Byrne, Mackenzie, just to name 4 that played in the first division, and Armstrong, of course, and they've settled things down. Glenn Bell with the slip. Trent Jordan, who certainly hasn't done badly in the settling in process for Jordan, and a difficult game in which to do it, but I think looks like certainly been a useful acquisition. Kelly and Conway. Dewsbury, just the purple patch. There are only 10 points scored in that, 3 or 4 minute spell. Kelly again switches it with Conway to Jordan, to Bell, back to Jordan. Jordan still going, and yeah, just a little bit unlucky then, I suppose they both were. Jordan with the pass that it didn't go to its destination. Wayne Kitchen, perhaps a bit unfortunate that he knocked the ball on. Mark Conway then. Can Dewsbury pull something out of the fire as Nathan Graham, Errol Johnson, Darren Rogers. Certainly Darren Rogers these days is looking pretty sharp, but not getting too much quality ball. Johnson brushing men off. Now Fleary. Just looked for a minute as if Fleary gets the ball inside and Richard Agar loses footing. Just looked as if there might be an overlap coming on the right. Gary Cox. He wouldn't have been far off the Dewsbury man of the match for 80 minutes total effort and commitment as Marchant. He can't be far off, but in fact, looks like Glenn Bell been pulled out. Yellow card, so that's the end of the game for Glenn Bell. I don't really know what that's about, but with only 2 or 3 minutes left, it doesn't make too much difference. The only fact is Dewsbury are going to be down to 12 men for what's ever remaining. It just looks at this stage as if those 20 points, there were just a few points too many that Dewsbury gave away. They've clawed back 10, but few points too many as Glenn Bell comes off feelingly, and Richard Agar penalised for striking out at the tackle. Whether or not Agar claimed that the man in possession delayed playing the ball, I don't know, but just interesting tactic by Workington. The last 2, that's another penalty. The last 3 penalties have just been quite happy to take the tap rather than risk missing touch from the middle of the field. Now the players move towards the touchline. Dean Marwood's planted the ball down and he's happy to waste a few more seconds, which he does. Puts the ball into the main stand. Certainly. Time out for Dewsbury. A valiant comeback in the second half, just perhaps with about quarter an hour left, and 9 and 10 points to pull back at that stage. There were hopes one more score would have been interesting, but Workington showed their professionalism. And I would think of the teams left the way the results going, you've still got to say that Workington look at the potential champions. I think on their day, it all comes about playing on the day. They're the best team in the division. Probably more experience and certainly a lot of good players. Jed Byrne, sort of feeling is the stand-off Wayne Kitchen. There goes the final hooter then. Excellent win for Workington. It's 10 to Dewsbury. Those second half tries, Darren Rogers, Nathan Graham, 1 goal to Mark Conway. The damage done by Workington in the first half. Those 3 tries, Stuart Cocker, Paul Burns and Mark Mulligan. 4 goals to Dean Marwood. The drop goal to Mulligan, the icing on the cake, but 2 valuable points for Workington in their quest for the Second Division Championship. Dewsbury have got it all to do then now. Back to action here on Wednesday night. Dewsbury against Doncaster. Final score here at Mount Pleasant. It's Dewsbury 10, Workington Town 21.